Hi guys, I want to show you how to check in with GitHub. Here I am in Visual Studio Code. I'm looking at a task from assignment 1. I haven't changed anything yet. Also, I have the test open, and of course it's still commented out. So I'm going to uncomment that test. I'll save it, and then it says, oh, that errored out. It says it expected uppercase ABC, but it got lowercase ABC. That's because task 1 hasn't been written yet. So let's pop back over and let's write task 1. We'll say var, and I know this is not quite right. I want to deliberately make it not quite right so you can see what happens. I'll say var result colon string equals arg to uppercase, like that. And then we'll return result, like so. Okay, so now let's see how that does with the test. Pop back over to the test, and now the test is green. Let's go ahead and pull open the test window. It says that guy is now passing. Also notice you could run the test manually in the terminal. You could just say yarn test, and it would run the test in the terminal manually, and you'll see it's going to pass now. Okay, that one test passed. Everything else is skipped at this point because that's the only change I've made. Then I also want to do a yarn lint. Before I check anything in, I want to check to make sure my style is good, and we'll see what lint has to say. Oh, there's two problems. So first of all, it says I'm using var, but we're in TypeScript land, and really I should either use let if I'm going to modify the variable or use const if I'm not going to modify it. And the other issue is I'm supposed to have a space after the colon. So let's go back. It's right there. It wants a space, and I should use let for this. Let's see what happens if I do that. So let remember, is what you want to use if you're going to use this as a variable that you modify. So if I pop back in here, I run lint again. It says result is never reassigned, use const instead. So the problem is I assigned result, but then I just return it. I never modify it. So it's telling me really this would be better as a const, okay? Because it's never modified. So let's try running lint again. In fact, there's really no need to assign this to a variable and then return the variable. I could simply return the result. Actually, let's just do that because that's even cleaner. It's simpler. And I just did the other thing because I wanted to show you how lint worked and what it does for you. So now I can lint that. And it says everything's dandy. Okay, so this is telling me I've modified two files. So in order to check that into Git, I need to add it to the repository, stage it for commit, and then commit it. There's two ways to do that. I can either stage the changes by hitting this plus. I can pick individual files and stage those, or I can stage with the command line. So let me just go ahead and stage them here. Now these are staged. It says staged changes. You can unstage them, of course, with the minus sign here. Unstage, unstage, if you accidentally stage something you don't want. But these are all ready to commit now. So I'm going to go ahead and commit. I'm going to say one task done. And then if I click this checkbox, it's going to go ahead and commit those. So that committed those changes. I want you to notice that now there's a 1 here. This means that I've made a change to my local repository that hasn't been pushed to GitHub yet. So if I click that 1, it's going to go ahead and push that. And now it's been pushed to GitHub. So just to show you, you can also do this on the command line. I could just make a couple insignificant changes here. Could do the same thing here. So now I've modified these two files again. I could do the same thing on the command line. I could say git commit -m insignificant change. I can put a message right on the command line. I could do a -a that means stage those for commit and commit them at the same time. And now you'll see I've gone ahead and this thing went to stage and then it went to commit, but now I've got another change that hasn't been sent to GitHub. I can do that from the command line using git push. So now I'm all cleared up here, and I'm also cleared up on the command line. So there you have it. That's how you push things. So you can either do it with the GUI in Visual Studio Code, and then you can just click the arrows down here once they're ready. Or you can, let's see, what's this? No problems have been detected. Okay, fantastic. Or you can use the terminal window and do it manually. If you have a change that's in GitHub that you want to fetch, you can do a git pull, or you'll see that there's a number here indicating that there's a change on the repository that needs to be updated. So, for example, if I go back to GitHub, let's just change. If I were to change the README on GitHub itself, say I modify it. Let's just add a line for no good reason. Whatever. I make a change on GitHub. I'll make that update for a test. And I will, let's see. Yeah, let's go ahead and commit that. Okay, so I've made a change now. If you look at commits, 4 commits, you'll see I just did this up. Insignificant change, that was from the command line. 1 task done, that was from Visual Studio Code. Update for a test, that was a change that was made right on GitHub itself. But if I pop into Visual Studio Code and if I do git status, if I say git pull, it's going to pull that change in from the README. And I could have also done that just by hitting the synchronize, and it would have synchronized the changes the same way. So most commands, there's a way to do it from the GUI, but there's also a way to do it from the command line. And you really should know how to do both, because you won't always have the GUI. Sometimes you'll be working on a server somewhere that doesn't have Visual Studio Code installed, or you're just you're SSHing in and you have only a command line interface. So you really do need to know how to do the command line commands in those cases. So that's all I have for you.